All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We are live with the Provoke Coach podcast. Thank you so much for showing up. As always, we're here to share provoking stories of really peak performers that have had these provoking moments throughout their life that have made them turn in a different direction to be the successes and the great people that they are now. So I have with us a very special guest, Leah Abraham. Thank you so much for showing up to the Provoke Coach podcast.
Oh, Clinton, it's a pleasure to be on this podcast. When you asked me, it was an immediate yes.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
You know, and you and I have, we have a lot of similar people that have influenced us and that maybe that are kind of in our circle. And, it's always interesting when you have a lot of coaches that get together that have had some provoking moments in their life. It just creates so much passion. It really does. And it really helps each other. So I want to let you know that we in the coaching world, we appreciate you. And hopefully your ears are probably ringing from time to time, because when your name comes up, everybody's smiling, everybody's excited to give you mad props. So we're all very, very proud of you.
Oh, I appreciate those kind words.
Heck yeah.
And it is awesome to be a part of a tribe and to build communities of support. So I feel the same.
It really is, and, people might be wondering, what's with the hat today and the farm look. But I had to
I love it. You look good, Clinton. Good look on you.
What people need to understand is Leah and I have a connection through farming and through organic means of providing for our families and getting our nails dirty and really becoming grounded with the world, and with the earth, for that matter. So we have this connection. That's why I wore my hat. That's why I dressed up. But this is kind of how I work around the farm anyways, right? So it's not new to me.
It looks good, Clinton, but you're absolutely right. Nature is one of our greatest teachers, and I often use teachings from nature when I'm working with clients or trying to deliver a message, because we can learn so much from nature if we slow down, connect to it, and observe, especially with cycles. Everything in nature has cycles, and so do we, and sometimes we forget that.
Right.
So yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for honoring that part of our connection, Clinton.
Well,
that's cool.
It really is, because, and it's important. There's not a lot of people out there, and hey, look, if you're listening right now and you're raising your hand like I am, that's awesome. That's great. Then you know exactly what we're talking about. It's not only a mind-body connection, but you are a sphere. I was watching a gentleman the other day, and I forget who it was, as I was, mindfully scrolling through people that I follow, which is actually quite awesome. I was watching.
I love that you said mindfully scrolling, because that's the difference, right?
Well, look, and I'll talk about that for a second. So, you may or may not know, but I recently went through my entire social media, and I literally, like Thanos, snaps his fingers and knocks out half of, existence. I did that in my social media. I took out everybody that did not bring me joy, that did not bring me happiness, that did not bring me good, positive energy. So now when I mindfully scroll, now I'm seeing cool shit, right? Now I'm seeing, and a lot of it's funny too. Like, I love to laugh. I love to have a good time. So there is some not serious type mindfully scrolling there. But I was listening to this gentleman speak, and he was talking about discharging energy. And we are, and he was very, very scientific with this. He's like, look, you wear rubber soles on your feet all day long. You're probably either, you're on wood, or you're on concrete, or you're on something that is not connected. You're not grounded. And he goes, when you go out, think about it like you're an electric charge. You have no place to discard that energy. You have no place for that energy to go. Meanwhile, he said that you're on your phone. And so now you have all this negative energy that's coming into your system or your computer, and it has no place to go. And he said, when you put your feet on the ground, barefoot on the ground, on the grass, on the dirt, right? It can pass through. It can discharge.
Yeah.
It's so fantastic. When I heard that, I was just like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I thought I was nuts, but here we go.
The scientific evidence that what you're doing, you're on the right track.
I know, right? Well, let's dive in a little bit to who you are and what you do present day right now. There's a lot of people that follow both of us. They might know who you are, but there's going to be a lot of people maybe that don't, and that are listening even later, and they might be hearing your message at a later time. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, thank you, Clinton. So I'm Leah Abraham, and I work with adults who are ready to begin healing their childhood traumas, and I help them also to see their addictions with new perspective. So basically, I am a child of trauma who grew up into a young adult of addiction, and then who wanted healing for myself, and kind of had a spiritual awakening. And I've been on this healing journey for over 10 years. And now I'm giving back. I'm taking my experiences, all that I've learned. I've created a 5-step healing process that I use with my clients, and it's been very effective. So I'm giving back, and it's a wonderful feeling to be on the other side, sort of in this position where I'm now able to help guide others into their own healing. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Do you specifically work with males, females? Is there a certain ideal client that is a perfect match for you?
So at the start of this, you find your coaches, and they say you have to nail down your ideal client. And so my ideal client was me a few years back. So females initially was my focus, but I'm learning that this healing is needed in the male community so deeply. And I've made a lot of connections with men who are not afraid to do this work. And so I'm really kind of having to kind of look at my ideal client in a different way now, and recategorize what that looks like for me. So really what it is people who have a lot of pain. I deal specifically with sexual abuse, a lot of sexual abuse. And so people that have a lot of pain and that have lived with it for too long, and who are ready to do something different, to make change in their life, and they want healing for themselves. So those are the people that I'm looking for.
Yeah. So they have to be willing to make the steps of wanting to be healed, and really wanting to take the next steps going forward, male or female, because I think, you kind of touched on something that, it is like an elephant in the room, is that men typically do not share their feelings and do not reach out, and that, they shy away from reaching out for help. Whereas I guess in a lot of cases, females they're pretty open to it. They take it easier, to be able to reach out. Have you found that, with coaching your clients as well?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think what it is, Clinton, is a lot of males have a difficult time wanting to acknowledge those traumas that happened, especially when it's tied to sexual abuse. That's just a very difficult space to go back to. And so a lot of the mindset is, why am I going to go back there? I'm already here. Let's just fix what's here. But in order to fix what's here, we have to go back to what happened then. So
Yeah.
yes, women are usually a little more open, and what I find is that a lot of the people I work with are mothers, and I think that plays a big factor in choosing to heal, because when you become responsible for the life of another soul,
Yeah.
you really just start seeing these things, or you kind of connect to these different memories, or you want different for your child, and so there's kind of this fear around, what if I pass this pattern on to my child? So
Yeah.
there's more of a willingness to do this work. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's funny that, people sometimes they don't know that they want help until it's glaringly obvious. And I think you're right. I think that the motherly insight of wanting to make sure that your kids are changing generational cycles, and that things, guys, you're right, they bury it a little bit, and they bury things, especially like you're saying with, sexual abuse, they bury it very deep, because it's not something, that they want to focus on. I've noticed it in coaching my clients as well, is that, predominantly at the beginning, I was coaching more females than I was male, the male population. And the guys always did well, but they were always a lot more willing to throw their egos aside a minute and understand that they had some challenges, especially with the mental health aspect. It's I guess a different ball game when you're unraveling emotional trauma, especially from childhood. Now, let me ask you this: where do you see this business going for you? I mean, it seems that you're definitely picking up more speaking engagements, definitely on Clubhouse, rocking and rolling with the ladies on there, some of mutual acquaintances that we have, and just phenomenal. Where do you see the future of all this?
Oh, thank you, Clinton. It's good to look to the future. So you spoke about the speaking engagements, and I really feel a calling to that area, because it's a way to share the message out to a group of people, and where you're in the same energy. So I used to only do one-on-ones, and I've recently opened up group coaching because I want to get the message out to more people. And in the beginning, I thought it would be difficult to do this work in a group setting. But what I'm finding is that it's actually very supportive to have a small group of community to work the 5 steps with. So I do see in the future an offering of like an online course where I walk through the 5 steps, and so that anyone around the world can access those 5 steps any time of the day, whenever they're ready. And then I want to show up at more speaking engagements, because that's you get into these communities of all these people that are kind of working towards the same thing of healing the mental health crisis on the planet. And it just opens the doors. You make more connections. You're introduced to more people's audiences, and so that's kind of where my focus is at this time, is really trying to get my 5 steps out to as many people as I can, and to show up in spaces where I am physically present with people, and we can really exchange energy, and I can share my message, and then they can ask questions and collaborations and stuff like that. So
wow, that's awesome. And I guess the 5 steps, how long does it take for somebody to go through the 5 steps with you?
Clinton, I'm glad you asked that question, because I have found when you are ready to heal, when you've had enough of your pain, you've tried all of the things, you've been in addiction for so long, and that's just tearing you down physically, mentally, emotionally, and you've had enough and you're ready to heal. My 5-step program is 5 weeks long, Clinton. It's 5 weeks.
Okay.
And at the end of the 5 weeks, it's transformative. You see
Yeah.
yourself in a whole different way. You see your addictions differently. You meet your inner child in a way that you never have before,
Yeah.
and you have a set of tools. You have this foundation of these 5 steps that you take with you on your continued lifelong healing journey, because it is lifelong.
Yeah.
There's always going to be
Yeah.
more layers, but
Wow.
you have this structure, you have these 5 steps. So anytime you're faced with a struggle or a situation that's difficult or a trigger, you
Yeah.
go through your 5 steps. You reference these 5 steps and you apply them to that particular situation, because they can be applied to any struggling situation, and so you take them with you. So it's really just 5 weeks of your time to change the trajectory of your life.
And it takes the entire week, right, per step.
Yeah.
Is it some sort of repetition that takes place daily, I'm assuming, for that first week to fully understand what that step is. Is that correct? And then you move on to the next week.
Right. So what we do is we meet on a one-on-one basis, and we go through the first step and gain a real deep understanding of what that step is, answer all of the questions. And then, yes, you implement that first step for the entire week with me as a support to ask questions, or if something comes up or something becomes unclear, you need clarity.
Yeah.
And so you focus on that step for that week, and then we meet the second step and
That's awesome.
And work
That's
through.
high touch, high service then.
Yeah.
So you're doing the best of both worlds.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wow. And that's what it sounds like to me. That's awesome. Well, and the reason why I say that is, how it is, right? There's tons of programs out there. There's tons of courses out there. It seems like everybody today is a coach, right? Like you and I picked a hell of a time to jump right into this, didn't we? Like, trying to help, people, and you have to separate.
I think it's the perfect time, Clinton. I feel like there's a massive shift happening on the planet. So like all these people that are being called to help guide others are kind of like rising up. So that's what I'm seeing. It's like, it's the perfect time.
And I agree.
If you feel like you want to be a coach, then be a coach and help some people.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And I was just, being funny, it's like I was having this chat with another coach the other day, like, and everything seemed to be a shift. And it wasn't so much from COVID, even though people think like in the business world, there's a lot of business coaches that, they were largely, invested in their companies, and high level executives with super amounts of talent turned business coach very quickly, to help, some of those other businesses that were, still conducting business. So him and I were, we were kind of, just joking about it the other day. Yeah, we picked the right time to get into coaching and consulting. But it sounds like your program is just fantastic, and it sounds super exciting. Now, where did all this come from? It just doesn't. You don't just wake up one day and say, "Hey, look, I got a story to tell. I got a program that helped me. Now it's going to help others." Where did it all come from? Take us through the story from, beginning until, current day. How did you grow up? What happened there? Maybe some provoking moments kind of along the way that steered you into this direction.
Yeah. First of all, Clinton, I love Provoke, Coach, and the way you use the word, some provoking moments, because you can exchange that with some traumatic moments, or, you can exchange that word with all these other words, but the way you use it to provoke positive change, like I just really think it's powerful. So some provoking moments for me was growing up in a household. So I want to kind of set the tone that I was not in touch with my provoking moments until way later on in life. I was very, in childhood, our body works for us, and, it literally shuts down parts of our brain so that we can survive into adulthood. So I was very detached from the things that had happened to me in childhood. But what I recognized in my adult life is just how things were not working, how there was so much chaos. And I was always trying to hold up this front and put on this show and wear this mask, but all this chaos was going on around me, and I was having to try and juggle all of these things. And so it was so much on me. And so what actually like took me into therapy was like OCD tendencies, you know, the wanting to have the house clean and everything has to be perfect, and getting upset with my children if they play in their room and make a mess, you know, like these type of things that it's just like, I don't want to live like this. And so that's what actually took me into therapy. And then it was years in therapy before kind of getting to the deeper root and uncovering what was at the core of all of these unhealthy core beliefs that I'd been operating from for so long in my life. Sure. And that was the sexual abuse trauma that happened in childhood. And so my story is my father is my abuser. And so growing up in this home where there were 8 of us, there were 8 children, and I was one of the oldest. So all of our traumas happened pre-verbal, where, you know, my dad is a very intelligent man, very smart man in terms of business and the way he shows up in the community. So he was very good at compartmentalizing his life. And so very smart about what he's doing, all pre-verbal, but still growing up in this house where there are these things happening and I'm receiving that energy, plus what happened early on in my life. And so having to live in that environment for so many years was very provoking to me. And then finally kind of uncovering this truth is what allowed me to really see what had happened to me and why I was sort of acting out in my adult life for so long, and why there was addiction and all of these things that were not working, and why I couldn't succeed past a certain point in employment and all of these different things, and why it was so hard for me to be a mom myself. And I spoke to that earlier, that when you have children, they begin to reflect these patterns. And that was part of what helped me kind of uncover this root. And
I don't want to interrupt you with
no, go for it.
You said something that was interesting, and I think that people need to hear that. You start to see in your children a reflection. What do you mean by that? Because I think I know what you mean by that, because instantly that hit me. It's like, wow, that's a trigger. You know, like when you catch yourself, maybe, you know, I do it a lot. Like I'm pretty bold, and I'm pretty, you know, like as a matter of fact. So sometimes I can come across as an asshole, right? Go figure, you know, but it's just, you know, it's my personality, but I get excited and I'm animated with that. Right. And I'm passionate with that. So sometimes that can get pretty aggressive, and I got to watch my tongue a little bit, you know, with my daughter, you know, and say, all right, well, back up, breathe.
Bring it back in.
Yeah. Talk about that reflection for a second.
Absolutely. So if you think about these provoking moments as patterns of energy that we absorb, and then we recreate them, trying to gain an understanding around them. So a lot of these things that happen to us in childhood, we've absorbed these patterns, but we haven't had the capacity to fully process them. So they stay with us, and then we recreate these patterns, you know, with different partners, different relationships that we have, and in an attempt subconsciously to process through them. So our children are no different. They come in and we begin seeing these patterns that we experienced happen to them. And that was what happened to me with my daughter. She spent a lot of time with my parents, and that was very triggering for me. Subconsciously, I wasn't aware of it, but I had a therapist who helped me to kind of see the link. And so a lot of times what happens is that we're going through life, we have a child, And then we begin to see these patterns. And so once we recognize them, once we have an awareness that they're there, we do one of two things. We either go into denial, which is most often what our parents did, which is what my parents did.
Yeah.
We go into denial and we, go into our addictions to just kind of cover up these things, and we don't want to talk about them, and let's not look at them. Or we do something different. We do something different. And a lot of times it takes having a child to do the something different.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. To be able to reflect that, to let you know that you're not the only one in the environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you think about it, right, probably a lot of cases that if you don't have children, how far, when you're solo, to those things go, and how far down do you pack them down the line, right? Or bury them in the sand, if you will, which is quite interesting. That comes up usually by force, by provoking, right? By provoking moments.
Yes, indeed.
Did you grow up in the area that you're in now? Did you move there? How did all that transpire?
So I was born in Las Vegas, Nevada, and lived there till I was 5, and then grew up in a town that's south of where I currently am, a little bit south, a small town. And then I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico after college. So I've been here, and I am close to where I grew up, but I have created massive distance between that environment and the one that I currently raise my family in. So
yeah, absolutely. And kids, I know you have them. I've seen videos and all sorts of stuff online.
Yes, 4 of them. I have 4 children.
Wow. Boys, girls, right? You have boys and girls.
Yes, I have 2 boys and 2 girls.
2 boys, 2 girls. Wow.
And they each reflect something different back to me. I really do believe that our children come here to offer us the opportunity to heal and grow in ways that we couldn't without their reflection.
They make you better. I don't care, who says it different. They really do.
I do love the relationship that you have with your daughter, Clinton. The first time I met you at the Unleash Your Greatness conference, you had your daughter there with you. And I thought that was really cool that, you're allowing her to be a part of what you're doing, and hearing you speak about these things, and taking her to events where people are talking about mental health and healing. And she's getting all of that information at such a young age. Like, it's wonderful.
Yeah, she's just a wonderful soul. I mean, when she told me, I had invited her. I'm like, hey, you want to go? And she didn't really, and then the day of, she told me, she's like, I want to go. Like, you're
let's go.
Dad is going to say yes to that. But, what's funny that you say that is that, when she was in the audience and I was speaking, I could speak to her. And I could tell her exactly what her dad went through at her same exact age. And some of the things that I learned throughout the way. And, I was talking with another coach just the other day on the podcast. We were talking about legacy. And we were talking about, look, you want to leave a legacy, start doing videos, start doing podcasts, start putting stuff out there that's not going to go away. Because our kids, they're into that. I mean, they're going to be watching these silhouette type videos of us later on down the road. And it was powerful, but you're right. I think it's a reflection. And because you see a lot of yourself in your kids, and you want to say, okay, let's avoid this. And let's make sure that we remove this obstacle, or let's make sure that the story is told a little bit different. And, and I tell people, say, hey, look, I wouldn't go back and change anything in my past. I really wouldn't. I couldn't. I shouldn't. And I won't. And I think the biggest thing is that, you learn a lot of things about what not to do. And you wouldn't be in the place that you're in now, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you for bringing that up. If you get me talking about my daughter, I'll steal the show here. And what really brought you to, I guess, giving back? and taking your talents to help people. How did you get called to do this? I mean, did you do other things in your life that kind of led you up to this professionally? Did you have some training that got you to this point? How did all that work?
Yeah. So it's interesting because looking back, and I'm sure you could say the same, I'm sure many coaches could say the same. I have always had this capability to connect with people and be able to offer a safe space for them to express themselves. Always, looking back, all of my friendships, I was always able to do that for people and enjoyed doing that for people, enjoyed kind of lifting others up. What I enjoy doing is helping people to see themselves as they really are. The soul of a person. I can easily connect to the soul of a person. And so to help you see what I see in you, I've always loved doing that for other people. And so what actually brought me into the coaching world is when I was in 12-step, part of my healing, 12-step recovery, I was having a very difficult time with the first step, admitting that we are powerless over our addiction.
Right.
And it was hard for me because all my life I learned if you can control as much as you can, then you'll feel safe. So to then say, like, I have no control was very difficult. And also, how am I supposed to change something that I can't control? So I was having a difficult time with that. And then I sort of like received this information, which is my alignment image, what I use in my 5-step healing program. And this alignment image helped me to see that when we are in addiction, we're actually disconnected from our higher power. Yeah. When we're in alignment, that higher power is like coming into us, through us, and out of us into all that we do in the present moment. But when we're in an addiction, we're actually separate from our aligned person. Right. And so therefore cut off from that higher power that's supposed to guide us and work through us and help us with each step along the way. So it was through that image that I understood how we could be powerless when we were in an addiction. And so I wanted to, my initial thought was I want to write a book and kind of share this so that people can see this in the way that I do, can understand it in the way that I understand it. And so I took a course with Hay House. You can kind of take a book writing course, and at the end of it, you can submit a proposal. It's like a contest, and you can win that. Nice. I didn't win the contest, but part of that process was they wanted to see what type of platform you had built on social media. And up to that point, I didn't have any social media because it was kind of part of my addiction and it wasn't healthy for me. So I had separated myself from that for a long period of time. But after this healing and wanting to build a platform to share this message, I got back on social media, found Instagram. I'm like, oh my God, I love Instagram so much. and realized in beginning to connect with people and kind of sharing this message that I didn't have to write a book. I could begin helping people now sharing this message. And so that's what I've been doing now for the last 2 years. I do plan to write my book, but now it's going to be a completely different book because I've spoke to so many people and I've, gained more knowledge about this alignment image. And I've created these 5 steps from the work that I've done with other people. And so it's the book will be, what it's meant to be. So everything in divine right timing, but that's kind of what brought me into this coaching space where I'm at now is just like, it's just these steps, you just show up for yourself and the universe kind of just like provides what you need and you just kind of follow those steps. And then you look back and you're like, oh, I'm a coach now. And so.
Well, and you're right that, it's interesting that not everybody is able to do what it is that you do. One of the things that you said that was, it was important is that the alignment and where people can feel safe coming to you, because I think that so many people, especially in the world that we live in right now, they don't want to reach out for help. They want to let you know that everything is just peachy keen, and they want
keep the mask on, just wear the mask.
Right. Cover the mask. But now, I mean, even it's physical too, right? Like you talked about social media. We talked about our youth, we talked about filters and, all these goofy images of people on social media that, there's a lot of noise out there. There really is. And, in the coaching space, trust is everything. So you've kind of knocked out that biggest challenge that coaches have. You've initiated that from the beginning. So it's all going to be downhill for you and your coaching system, because that's really hard to do. In my opinion, of course, but I'm sure others that are listening are like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And
I
it's
appreciate that insight, Clinton. I never thought about that.
I mean, it's super powerful. People, they spend a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of resources to try to get that or to perceive that image. And you're, kind of naturally doing it already. So great job.
Thank you.
What advice, we'll kind of leave the audience with this good message. What advice do you have for somebody that's maybe listening out there, whether it's in business, whether it's in their personal life, what message would you give them for advice?
I have so much to share.
I know, right? I mean, but you can't give them all the answers. They can look you up, they can find you. We're going to give them your information. But what advice do you have for people?
So what's really important for me to get out there into the world, Clinton, is that there is so much trauma. There are so many provoking moments that we have all been through. And there's a lot of sexual abuse on this planet currently. And so that's, like I said, my area of focus.
Yeah.
What I want people to understand is that healing, it doesn't have to be a difficult process. And I say a difficult process. The healing work can be difficult. It can be very difficult.
Sure.
But it doesn't have to be a difficult process. I want to simplify healing for people because we see it as just this huge thing that I don't even know where to begin. I'm afraid. I don't want to go back there. There's all of these, whatever we see healing as. But I want people to see that it's actually, it's not that difficult. What our body wants for us is to be able to process this unprocessed energy that we carry with us from childhood. You talked about that in the beginning, how people don't ground into the earth and we're receiving all of this stuff into us, but it doesn't have anywhere to go. Yeah. So if you think about going back to nature, you look at animals and in the fight, flight, or freeze response, in nature, an animal will either fight and they'll either survive or they'll die. They will either run away and they'll either escape or they'll die. They'll either freeze and then be left alone. And then after the freeze happens, you will see that animal get up and shake that energy out of their body. They'll shake it out so they don't carry it with them. They don't carry that provoking moment with them. They release it from them. Humans are the only ones that we don't do that. We just keep that inside and we hold all this stored energy and it begins to show up in the body as different diseases, all of these things. So what I want people to understand is that everybody deserves to heal and everybody has the capacity to heal. It's about knowing what that process looks like, about how do we process this energy that's stored in us. How do we begin to do that? And once you understand the process, you can see that it's not a difficult process. Now, actually going back and doing the work is something different. But here's what I have to say about that. I want everybody to hear this, that you are strong enough. You are strong enough because you survived that trauma when you were a child. You survived it, and here you are as an adult. So to choose to go back through with your conscious awareness is a completely different journey. And
Yep.
you are strong enough. You are strong enough. And then to have guidance and community of support like the ones that we're offering, the ones that these coaches that you have on your show are offering. If you have that guidance and support, you understand the healing process, and you have the courage to step onto that journey.
Yeah.
There isn't anybody on this planet who can't heal.
Yeah.
So
And just like, yeah, and you're talking emotionally and mentally, but there is scientific proof that your body can physically do it as well. And if your body can do it, that mind body connection, you better believe that your brain and your emotional state and your mental state can do it as well. And you're
heck
absolutely
yes.
right. Everybody deserves it. I mean,
Yes.
that's what I mean. I think even, there's people out there that think that they don't,
That's
I mean,
one of the things that we
yeah,
carry because
yeah,
of that trauma. We
yeah,
carry this belief that we don't deserve, but that's not true. If you're alive, then it is your
yep,
birthright to be fulfilled in all areas of your life.
100%.
So,
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on
yeah.
our show today. I'm going to have you hang around just a couple of minutes after we let everybody else go. But where can they find you? Like, clearly on Instagram. I know you're very, into Instagram, Clubhouse as well. Is that correct? I know
Correct.
you do some live shows through Clubhouse, right?
Yes. Yeah. On Clubhouse, I'm active there. I have a club called the Trauma Drama Club. And
Yeah.
every Thursday, I host the Trauma Drama Room, where we speak to childhood trauma specific to sexual abuse trauma. And then each week, we have a different subtopic that we dive deeper into. But that's every Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, yes, Instagram is the best place to reach me. That's where I'm at. I'm currently... my time and my schedule only allow me to really be active on those two platforms. You can find me on other platforms. I'm on all the other platforms,
Right.
but really only active there on Instagram and Clubhouse. So find me there.
Awesome. Very good. Well, thank you so much for being on. Everybody that's listening, hey, look, follow Leah, follow her on her journey. I can't wait to see the future of the 5-step program.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read that book. I can't wait to see you live, taking the stage, maybe even sharing the stage, maybe someday. But wow, thank you so much. Everybody that's listening, look, you know what to do. Leave a review, subscribe, follow, you got it, comment, do what you do, share it with somebody. Hopefully we can share it with people that will provoke positive change. We'll talk to everybody soon.